Today is the 30th of June, 2010. We are at the Isaac C. Griswold Library in Whitehall, New York. My name is Wayne Clark. I'm with the New York State Military Museum in Saratoga Springs, New York. Sir, for the record, would you please state your full name and your date and place of birth, please?
My name's Jerry Edward Austin, and I was born February 8th, 1947 in Ticonderoga, New York.
Did you attend school in Fort Ticonderoga?
No, I didn't. I attended school in Whitehall. I started out in the District 9 school, and then from there I went to high school at the old high school in Whitehall, and I was the first class to graduate from the new high school.
And what year did you graduate?
1964.
At that time, did you go to work right after high school, or did you go into the service?
I actually enlisted in the service before I graduated from high school, so I was already enlisted in the Marine Corps, and then after graduation in November I was sworn in and went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for basic training.
Okay, let me ask you, why did you pick the Marine Corps?
Because they didn't leave their soldiers, they didn't leave their people behind. I had read some articles on them, and I just decided that's what I wanted to do.
Did you have any family members that had served in the Marine Corps or any other branches of the service?
No, no. My father was a farmer during World War II, and he wasn't. They wouldn't take farmers. My grandfather was a engineer on the railroad during World War I and World War II, and they wouldn't take engineers either. So I was the first Austin in the military in a lot of generations.
And so you took basic at Lejeune.
That's correct.
And what was basic training like?
It was tough. When we first started out, we had to learn how to make a bed, and that took probably a day and a half. By the time they were never made right, they tear them down and start all over again. And shortly before I joined, they had the problems at what they call Ribbon Creek, and drill instructor got drunk and marched his platoon out into Ribbon Creek, and I think they lost 8 Marines out of it by the time they got through. So they were cracking down a little bit on that, but they were still able to. They wanted to hit you. They hit you. It was everybody got their blows in on everybody. At the time I joined, there wasn't the Marine Corps wasn't big, and Vietnam was just getting started, and so normally you had 2 drill instructors, but because they didn't have enough recruits at that time, I ended up with 4 drill instructors. So and they had a new program going where they were trying a new physical fitness thing, and we were under the old one. And drill instructors wanted to make sure the old one still stuck, so they put us through extra training and extra physical fitness, just so when at the end of our stay at basic training, we could outdo the other ones, and we did.
Was that your first time away from home?
Yes.
Were there any other guys you went to high school with that went into the Marine Corps at that time, or were you down there by yourself?
I was the only one. There was a Robert Gagne from Ticonderoga that enlisted at the same time as I did, and we went down together. We weren't in the same outfit. I was in Company 3007, or Platoon 3007, Company A, 3rd Battalion, and I think he went to the 2nd Battalion, and we both come home on leave at the same time. I never got to see him, but he was killed in an automobile accident while he was home on leave. So.
Once you completed your basic training, where did you go next?
After basic, we went to infantry recruits training, which was probably I think 30 minutes or so from Paris Island,
Mm-hmm.
and there we were familiarized with all the different weapons that the military had used in the past and were using at the present. And we actually trained with the M1 Garand at that time instead of the M14,
Mm-hmm.
even though the M14 was the weapon that we had at that time.
Mhm.
But that's what they used down there.
Did they tell you that you probably would be going to Vietnam?
No, not at that time. Vietnam, when I finished high school, Vietnam was a little skirmish going on,
Mhm.
and you know, you read about a little bit of it in the paper and stuff like that. I actually had orders cut for Hawaii when I finished infantry recruit training and did my leave at home. I was stationed for Hawaii.
So once you finished that training, you went to Hawaii?
Well, I went to Camp Pendleton, California
Mm-hmm.
for staging, and they loaded us onto troop ships. I think there was either 3,000 or 5,000 Marines and 2,000 Army regulars on. And before we got to Hawaii, they said the 4th Marines had moved to Okinawa, so we stayed right on the troop ship, and we
Yeah.
took off for Okinawa.
Now, when was that?
That was April of '65,
Mm-hmm.
right around there, April of '65.
And what was that trip like going to Okinawa? Did you get seasick at all?
We were on a troop ship. I think it was a cargo ship at one time, and they turned it into a troop ship, and it was USS John J. Breckinridge. And you got up in the morning, you got in line, you ate breakfast, you showered and shaved, you got back in line, you ate dinner, because there was so many. The place was just loaded with Army personnel. That's all it was. It didn't, you stood in line to read a book. You stood in line and played cards, and
Mhm.
And guys were. At that time I had a weak stomach, anyways, as far as motion sickness.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to keep it under control for 3 days. But after that, I lost it. I was down for a week. It was.
Wow. Now, how did you guys get along with the Army?
Well, no problems.
No.
We were all on the same boat. You know, it was you get along or you don't, and,
Mhm.
and for the most part, there was no problems.
Okay. So, what was it like when you got to Okinawa?
They wouldn't let us off in Hawaii. We took on pineapples,
Mm-hmm.
and in Okinawa, when we got to Okinawa, the Army got off and we stayed on.
Oh, you didn't get off in Okinawa?
No, they didn't let us off the ship at all, and we headed right for Vietnam.
Oh, okay. What was your impression of Vietnam when you arrived?
Well, it was scary because we didn't have combat gear,
Mhm.
because we weren't combat gear was assigned to you when you got to your duty station, wherever it was. So we had our duffel bags full of Class A uniforms and the utilities that we were given when we finished boot camp, and
Mhm.
so they took us down to Chulai,
Now, where did you land in country?
in Chulai,
In
down
Chulai,
off
okay.
of Chulai, and they got us on shore. And the first night they issued us all 5 hand grenades, and that's what we had for the first night until they could get us some weapons and things, and then we got outfitted after that, and then we started building the air base down there
Mhm.
in July, is where we were on guard duty.
Now, did you have any jungle-type fatigues or utilities, or were you wearing the stateside?
We were wearing just the
Utilities.
stateside. At that time, it was just the regular issue utility uniforms, which were
Mhm.
solid green.
Mm-hmm.
Toward the end of my tour over there, they'd come out with the jungle boots, and and they had come out with a lighter green pair of trousers, but they weren't into the camouflage ones at that point.
Mm-hmm. Now, your job in Vietnam, were you with an infantry unit?
I was with I was assigned at one time to my first, on the first operation, I was assigned to Hotel Company 24,
Mm-hmm.
and that was Operation Starlite.
Okay, do you want to tell us about that operation?
Can't tell you much because when we were in staging,
Mm-hmm.
to be helicoptered out, I had a brother that was suffering from cancer back here in the States. He was 13, and he passed away, and the Red Cross representative coming down, and we were in staging, and he said that I needed to be home,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, leave your machine gun, grab your gear, and go with him. And that was, and so I was back to the States for 30 days.
Now let me ask you this, did your family know that you were being sent to Vietnam? I mean, initially you thought you were going to Hawaii, and then the next thing you know you're in Vietnam. Were you able to...
I was able to write a letter when we stopped, I believe, when we, it was either between Hawaii and Okinawa or between Camp Pendleton and Hawaii. I was able to get a letter off, and of course they took, when they docked, they took all the mail and they sent
Yep.
that out. And we were told not to tell them where we were going, but we were not going to be at our regular duty station at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so then,
So you were home for 30 days,
right,
and where did they have you report?
before I got home, I went down to the Chulai airstrip to catch a plane, and at that time, the casualties from Operation Starlight were already coming in, and I couldn't get on a military plane. They were using them C-130s. They were just loading them with casualties. And finally, Corpsman asked me if I could hold IV units on the plane, so I was able to get on a plane to Okinawa and then pick up another one from Okinawa to Hawaii and another one from Hawaii back to LA International. But I couldn't get a military plane out of LA International because the casualties were coming out of Vietnam so fast, and they were sending them to the hospitals in the United States. It was unbelievable. People just had no idea of the pipeline of how that was going.
How did you get home?
I went down to the Red Cross unit, and I was kind of figuring in my head how much money I need for a civilian ticket, and I didn't have any money to halt anything on me, so I went down and told him that I needed $65 to get home, and he says, "Well, what's your problem?" And I told him, and he says, "Well," he says, "you don't need that much," and he come up with $62.50. So he gave me $62.50, and I signed a receipt for it, and then so I was able to get a civilian plane home.
It only cost you $62 to fly?
It was less than that, actually.
Really? Huh. So after the 30 days...
Because I was figuring, food and stuff like
Sure.
that off the plane and stuff. And by the time I got home, the funeral was all over. Everything was. It took me 4 days to get home from the time that I was notified. So after that, I had orders cut again for Camp Pendleton, and Treasure Island, San Francisco. I had orders cut for, and I was in what they call TAD, which is you're in standby waiting, so they can get a plane group together to get you to the next destination. And I was there about a month, in Treasure Island, and after that, I was another month in Hawaii, and then another month in Okinawa, and finally I got back to Chulai after that. Flew into Chulai.
So did you end up with your same unit in Chulai? Okay. All right. And
No, there was
were a number of the members of the unit lost in
there
the?
was 12 guys left.
Oh boy. Okay. And do you want to talk about what it was like when you went back for the second time?
I was back in headquarters company, and
Yeah.
and that's when I found out that the what had happened. They actually told me there was only 4 left. But I was reading an article in it was either in American Legion magazine or the VFW magazine here a year or so ago, and there was actually 12 guys left.
Out of how many?
89.
Wow.
And one of the machine gunners I knew, and I believe he's that survived, and he made a career out of the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And, got out in '89.
Okay. After Starlight, the next operation was Harvest Moon that you went out
I
on?
believe the second one was Harvest Moon. There was 4 that I was on. Yeah.
Okay.
And
And what was it like the first time you were under fire? When did that happen?
before that, because when we started in Chulai, we were basically what they called security.
Mm-hmm.
But what we were doing is we were just driving the Viet Cong out of the Chulai. We had them up in the mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and of course we had to get them off the mountains because they could mortar into the air base. So
Yeah, I was going to ask if
but we were in,
you were hit with mortars and rockets on a regular basis.
oh yeah, we were in firefights all the time. And
Mhm.
when we finally got them over on the other side of the mountain, that's when they got a little easier in Chulai, because then they didn't have any point where they could look down onto the air base. So.
Mm-hmm.
But, the air base was basically tents with a metal landing strip, and then they brought in bladders that they filled with jet engine fuel and stuff. These big bladders, you know.
Mhm.
So there was a base for them to pull out of. In books I've read since then, that on guys that had gone back to Vietnam, I guess it turned into a real cement complex. It was nothing but
Mm-hmm.
sand and stuff. Beautiful country. Beautiful.
Yeah.
The beaches. You patrolled
Yeah,
the beaches. You
I've
had
been
to-
there.
Yeah, you had to do it with sunglasses on, because
Mhm.
it was as white as that door is over there, just
Mhm.
snow white, you know. So
Okay. Now, were you fighting strictly Viet Cong or regulars also?
we fought Viet Cong and North Vietnamese regulars.
Mm-hmm.
We fought them both. Very few North Vietnamese regulars at that time. It was more Viet Cong.
Mhm.
A lot of sniper hit and run tactics.
What were they equipped with?
After one of our firefights, I picked up a Thompson submachine gun made in Bridgeport, Connecticut. They had everything. I mean, it was anything that a gun dealer could sell them. That's what was over there. Basically, a lot of AK-47s, but there was everything. You name it, they had it.
Mhm.
They had, or whatever they could scrounge up.
Do you think the training you had prepared you for what you faced in Vietnam?
No. We were in infantry recruit training. We were taught conventional warfare,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went over there and it was guerrilla warfare. So it was, as far as how to handle a rifle, how to hand-to-hand combat, that kind of stuff, but as far as maneuvers, it was a whole different situation. There was no front, there was no line that you could, there might be a line sometimes, but it was, a lot of times it was, you didn't know where they were, you know, they could be your side, they could be your back, you had no idea. It was a different kind of warfare. And
Okay. And what kind of weapon did you carry?
when I went over, I was an A gunner, assistant machine gunner, and then I just carried a 45 and all the ammunition and a tripod and things for the machine gunner I could carry. And
Oh, was that the M60 machine gun?
and M60, right. Within a short period of time, I was a machine gunner because he was killed. And when I got back from, that was before Operation Starlite even. When I got back from the States here, there was a Army fellow by the name of J.D. Hill that was, he was going to do all 4 branches of the service. And he says I should have gone in the Marine Corps first, because he says I went in the Army and then I had to go through basic training in the Marine Corps. He says if I'd done basic training in the Marine Corps, I could have done all the other branches of the service just by transferring.
Oh.
But if you're going into the Marine Corps from Navy or anything else, you go through boot camp. You don't just go in. So, but he was a machine gunner also, and we worked on the jungle sling, and we worked on a lot of things that made that M60 more user friendly in the jungle.
Now, did you keep the bipod on the end?
The tripod?
Or yeah.
No, we more or less did away with the tripod. We could carry more ammunition if we didn't have to. Our A gunners could carry more ammunition if we didn't have to carry a tripod. A lot of times I just have a poncho in the pack, in the backpack, with one box of one metal box of ammunition and whatever they gave us for sea rations on top of that. And,
what about hot food? Did you get much of that in the field?
no, just what we could cook out of the sea ration containers. You could cook it if you had the chance. You ate it hot. Not you didn't. So.
Now, were your operations helicopter borne?
Some of them were helicopter borne, and other ones we were brought in on 6x. Operation Harvest Moon, I think it was. We went in on 6x6s.
Do you recall when that was, approximately?
No, I couldn't tell.
Okay. Okay, and how long did Harvest Moon last?
I think we were probably, it was a 3-day thing for us. You could see as we got closer, where the firefight was actually going on, where it was conflict. There was just a big cloud of black smoke up over the whole thing, and it looked like you were headed for hell. And we were driving right into it. Of course, and as you got closer, then they got us off the 6x's, and then we moved in on maneuvers and worked into other companies that were there to help them on eliminating the enemy.
Were they dug in pretty well in bunkers, or?
At that point, no. It was more they had been dug in, and and a lot of stuff was basically just assault. But we had run into some that were dug in, and we worked out a way with them. The machine gunner, of course, was the guy they wanted to take out the quickest, and they found by trial and error, if they moved the automatic riflemen in closer toward the machine gunners instead of having them spread out so far, that while we were reloading, the automatic rifles could take some of the pressure off the machine gunner. And then that kind of confused them because the M14 round and the M60 was a 7.62 millimeter round. It was the same ammunition, so you could they couldn't define the difference between the two. And they what have they got? Another machine gun sitting over here. So we kind of, you know, we tried to trick them a little bit so that but they kind of they knew where we were most of the time. Snipers was a big problem. Was you know, it's they would set off in out of the actual firing and just try to find where we were and pick us off. You know,
How effective were they?
for the most part, very effective. A lot of guys were lost to snipers. A lot of guys. Yeah.
Once Harvest Moon was over, how long did you stand down for, or didn't you?
Well, we'd go back to headquarters, and it was back to doing. We moved tents all the time. We called ourselves a circus because we spent time tearing down tents, putting tents up, camouflage netting. You had to put up with these centipedes that were almost a foot long, and you cut them in half, and one section would go one way, and another section would go another way, and we had black scorpions under the pallets and things, and you worked all day long in the sun, and you went 2 hours on and 2 hours off every night with two of us in a hole, and we just tried to, if you had a watch, and when we first got over there, I had a Timex I dropped on and broke the crystal on, and when the monsoon season started, then the water got into the thing and ruined it. But up to that, some guys had watches, some didn't, so you tried to guess on how, you know, how long you were up for.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the scorpions. Did you encounter any problems with snakes or tropical diseases at all, or malaria?
There was, I think it was pit vipers that we run across. We didn't. There was a couple of guys that caught malaria while we were there. We tried to stay away from the water that, you know, and then they gave you the chlorine tablets for the whatever they were to put in the water that made it taste really foul. So, but I think it was 2 guys that contacted malaria that I knew of. What was, you asked me something else?
Problems with, well, I mentioned the snakes.
The snakes. Well, being brought up in Whitehall, we had Black Mountain racers and stuff around here. And we were out in a peanut patch, and I had a machine gun, and everything was stopping, and I didn't know what the problem was. The point guy was African American, and he wasn't going any farther because there was a pit viper up there in a peanut patch, and he wasn't going anywhere near him. And so the word was going down the line, and I says, well, here, somebody take the machine gun and give me a rifle with a bayonet, and I went up and killed it, and I held it up like that on the on the bayonet on the rifle. And the guy goes, man, he says, you're one foolish dude to fool with them things.
Okay. Any other tropical diseases? I know a lot of guys, especially in the infantry, came down with that jungle rot.
We had jungle rot, yeah. I had it on my arms, and I started to get it on my face. Some guys had it so bad on their face that they couldn't shave. They wouldn't let them shave. But, I got a little bit, and then I just kept working around it and kept putting an ointment on it and on my arms. But yeah, we got jungle rot and dysentery, and you got hit with just about everything there was over there.
Did you become wounded at all?
I got hit in the knee. I never got a Purple Heart. I didn't I didn't put in for it. At the time I was there, you basically had to have a officer verify that it was actually a wound from conflict and so on and so forth, and
What were you hit with?
a piece of shrapnel, some kind or other, caught me in the knee. And I had one that caught me here in the arm too. But it was just surface. It wasn't any big thing. The knee one kind of hurt. It did for quite a while. It was actually, I got a little black spot still there, but they didn't want to fool with it because they said it was embedded in the cartilage and just leave it alone, and years later I might have a problem. And I had problems years later, and it wasn't that at all. It was gone. It wasn't even in the cartilage anymore, but the spot where it went in was still blackened.
Wow. And then your next mission was Double Eagle, was that it?
Harvest Moon, I think, Double Eagle or Operation Utah. There was 4 of them, and I can't remember now.
Were they all basically the same?
Pretty much the same. Yeah, they were. It was firefights.
So you guys were constantly on the offensive, going after the...
When we were sent, we knew it wasn't to play security. It was definitely offensive. We were there to do the job.
What about booby traps? Any problems with those, or the punji pits? Or
Yeah, we had we had trouble with the punji pits with our regular shoes, and then when they came out with the jungle boots, they gave us, it was like a Kevlar insole or something that you slipped into them. So, but the jungle boots were cloth sides, and so then the clever little guys designed a booby trap where you stepped on it, then the spikes come up like this and got you in the ankles, so you had to watch out for those too. So, but it was, we had a lot of trip mines, things like that. You know, that's what we're on the lookout for. Bouncing Betties, they had them too. We had them, they had them. They put booby traps together with bamboo tubes and load them full of stones or bolts or nuts or any kind of metal they could put in them with whatever they needed to detonate it. And, you name it, they come up with it. It was all of it out there. Piano wire strung across places. Drop, what do they call, dead men or whatever, they drop down off them, they tripped a thing.
you mean like a log or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Did you get any kind of R&R while you were over there?
Because I went home for the funeral, I couldn't, they were sending guys to like back to Okinawa and Australia and stuff, but I ended up with 3 days in Saigon.
What was that like for you?
That was nice. They had us in a fairly secured area, so you knew where you were. We stayed in a hotel there, and you were able to get some nice food, you know, for a change, and it reminded me a little bit of Albany, actually. You know, it was sort of big, and there was gift shops and things like that, so I bought things that I could send home, and I had my picture taken while I was down there at a photography place. Yeah.
Did you have any USO shows at all while you were over there, like Bob Hope or?
We didn't get to see Bob Hope. When Bob Hope was there, we were on perimeter, so I didn't get a chance to see Bob Hope. I did see Ian Margaret, and Martha Ray was a standard. Martha probably did more for Vietnam than on the USO thing and
Yeah.
any of the other ones out there. She was always around at different USO shows.
Mhm. So did you get to see her?
I got to see Martha Ray too. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
And when did you finally go home?
Um, oh, let's see. No, I couldn't really tell you.
Okay. But you were there for at least a year?
I was there for my actual tour of duty in Vietnam. Time in Vietnam was 13 months.
13 months.
Even with the break and everything,
Mhm.
that's what we had to spend was 13 months. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, came back the first time, and found that so many of the fellow Marines had been lost. What about your casualty ratio when you came back? Did you continue to lose a lot of
Not as many,
men?
because that was supposed to be the operation that ended the whole thing.
Mhm.
And actually it was the first time that, and those were all North Vietnamese regulars. And their mind thought was they were going to show us what it was all about.
Mhm.
And our mind thought was we were going to put them in a horseshoe pattern and drive them right out into the ocean.
Mhm.
And it's the last time they really fought us as a North Vietnamese regular unit. It was always, we had the operations too, and they were rugged too, but they wouldn't go a big full-scale operation on a big American operation. They fought, it was usually, if there was 100 of us, there was at least 300 of them or better. They wouldn't fight on a one-to-one basis or anything close to it after
Mhm.
that. And it was more hitting outposts and things like that if they could.
Okay. And you didn't end up going back for another tour, did you?
No,
Okay.
when I got back, I was assigned to Camp Lejeune,
Mm-hmm.
and they sent me to guerrilla warfare school with a bunch of boots. There was 4 of us back at the same time.
Now, were you there as an instructor?
Not to start, but after we run the first group through,
Mhm.
we ended up finding rifles that they hid. That they were showing them how to clear out village or how to find caches in villages and stuff like that. And we were bringing back. We showed them where look here, look there, da da da.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up finding rifles that they hid and didn't even know
Uh.
they hadn't seen them in a long time, And so they got talking to the 4 of us, and they had us in as guerrilla warfare instructors for a period of time there. And then
Mhm.
I was assigned to the 6th Fleet, and we did a med cruise. Took in France, Spain, Portugal.
That must have been quite a change for you.
Well, it was, but we still went through combat training there. They'd say we're taking such and such a place, and the beach would be 10 feet wide, and the rest of it was like a volcano, and of course your objective was always up on the top, so
Mhm.
that got a little old after a while. But I trained with the French Legionnaires and parachuted into Corsica while we were over there.
Oh, you did too?
Yeah, with the fort. I was in Fort St. Elm with the French Legionnaires.
Had you had any parachute training
No,
in the?
no,
Not
none
in the
before
Marines.
that. No,
How much training did you get with them?
about 1 month.
Oh, okay.
Uh, then
How many jumps did you make?
just the one. Yeah. And
Did you jump with a static line?
yes, yeah.
So how was that first jump? Was it scary or?
I was glad to feel that harness come up
Uh-huh.
and grab me. It was nothing I wanted to make a career of.
Uh-huh. Now, I forgot to ask you, you had been promoted to corporal. Were you promoted in Vietnam?
No, we were basically stagnant in the time I was in Vietnam. I was promoted to PFC before I got over there, and we just, I had taken the test for Lance Corporal twice and passed it, but they never did any promotions. And so when I got back to the States, I had orders cut for 2-6, 2nd Battalion, 6th Marines, and they sent my service record book to 1-6. So I was down there 30 days. The only thing I had was my veterans service identification card to prove I was even in the service. My utilities, my stuff was shipped down ahead of time, and that was lost. And so I was out there in civilian clothes. I couldn't get promotions came and went, and I couldn't get promoted because they didn't have my service record book. And finally, I got a letter sent from my parents. They sent down a copy. They sent down the letter that they got in the mail that's saying that I was UA, and if I didn't report to base within such and such a period of time, and that had already gone by, that I was going to be declared a deserter. And so I took it into the Master Gunnery Sergeant. He said, I says, well, I know where my service record book is now. I showed it to him, and he says, well, he says, go down and see what they want to do. So I walked down to 1-6, and he says, are you looking for Jerry Austin? And the guy says, yes, we are. And I says, I'm him. He says, he started to reach for the phone. I says, before you call the MPs, I says, call 2-6. I've been down there for a month. So he called down there, and they talked back and forth. He grinned, and he says, well, where do you want to go? And I said, well, I've been down there for a month. And I said, I know the guys down there, so if you can send my service record book down, I'd appreciate it. You couldn't carry it yourself. You couldn't have your own service record book. So they sent it down there. I stayed with 2-6. But,
And how long were you there for until you were discharged?
till I was discharged, yeah. I come back from the med cruise, and I made corporal while we were on the med cruise. And when I got back, I made Lance Corporal and Corporal. And when we got back, I just served for a month as Corporal of the Guard, and basically they kept sending me to different guys to see if they could get me to re-enlist. And
Did they offer you a sergeant to re-enlist?
they offered me sergeant, and I could go to Jet Engine Mechanics School in Quantico, Virginia, and then they'd make me a staff sergeant plus a $10,000 bonus.
Were you tempted to take it?
No.
No.
No, because I knew where I was going to end up again, and once was enough for me.
Okay, so you took your discharge, and you came home, and then what happened? Did you go to work, or?
Well, when I was in school, I always liked machine shop, and I liked working with lathes and stuff, so I took a machinist course that was offered. I could do it through the VA, and that was down in Argyle, New York at that time. And so I took the course, and I became a machinist with a sheepskin. I could read blueprints.
So you used your GI Bill for that?
For that, yeah.
Did you use the GI Bill to buy a home or anything?
No.
Okay.
And so I worked in a machine shop for a couple of years and hated it. You were basically tied down to the same machine all the time, and I went in the dark, and in the wintertime I come home in the dark and just watch the rest of the world go by, and I says, well, this isn't the way I want to spend the rest of my life. So I had a chance to go to work for Agway, starting out in their grain mill in Granville, New York. And I started there counting grain bags to start with, and then making grain, and then driving truck and getting my chemical license and doing spraying for them. And then their salesman was in a bad automobile accident, so I filled in for him for the period he was out. And then people from Syracuse, the head of the sales division, interviewed me for a position in Rutland and Fairhaven as salesperson. And so I took that, and I got the manuals and read up on the dairy and livestock aspect of it and the crop aspect of it, which is the crop one I pretty well knew from being in spraying, and so I got I worked as a farm enterprise salesman, and then a dairy and livestock specialist, and with the dairy and livestock specialist I was a certified crop advisor. And I get a lot of the other dairy and livestock specialists who went through college and learned just animal husbandry part of it, and cattle didn't really do the crop end of it, so I get phone calls of, can you help me out with this, what's going on here on a lot of the crop stuff. So it was a fun, I enjoyed it. Of course the company went bankrupt, and I was 57, and so I stayed on with Cargill for 11 weeks after that, just for a transition period, and then I took early retirement. 57. That didn't stick. I went to work for New York Life, and I got my insurance license, and then I got my securities license, and then I got the license for interstate securities. I took the life insurance exam, the Series 6 exam and the Series 63 exam, and I was a financial service professional for New York Life for 4 years, and everything, the economy went south, and you were basically, I was my own operation, and so I got out of that, and I worked for Pyrofax Energy for 1 year in sales, and then retired.
Okay. And did you join any veterans organizations?
I'm a member of the VFW in Granville, Post 1653. I'm a member of the American Legion Post in Granville, Post 323. Right now I'm Post Adjutant. I was commander for 7 years, and in the same time of that 7 years I was also Washington County commander with the American Legion.
Did you
I'm
stay
also a member of the Hudson Falls Marine Corps League.
Okay. Did you stay in contact with anyone you were in the service with?
No, because when I went in, it's different than what they're doing with the guys. Like the National Guard from here goes over as a group. It got after a while over there where I didn't really want to make friends because you lost them. So, you know, especially newbies coming in, I just didn't want to. I don't even know if any of them are still alive that I was over there with. You know, I know one came back to States because he transferred back with me. He was from Texas. But when we come back, we just wanted out of there, and we wanted to forget the whole thing. We just wanted to get away from it.
Okay. You brought some memorabilia with you today. Do you want to show it to us and explain what you have?
Sure. Well, this is my Marine Corps picture.
Okay. Let me just zoom in on that. And that was taken at Camp Lejeune?
That was taken at Camp Lejeune, right.
Okay.
Can you bring these are pictures of, I don't know how you can get them. This was Operation Utah.
Oh, okay.
This was
Weapons cache.
weapons cache.
Okay.
This is a Russian-made 7.62 millimeter machine gun.
Okay.
This is a couple of guys I was with over there, Lance Corporal Jones and PFC Anderson.
Okay.
This is a laundry we had set up over there with civilians that they check them in and check them out. There was a stream over there, so they set up a laundry. This was
Okay.
at headquarters.
Actually, you can hold those photos closer to you,
Oh, okay.
and it's easier for me to zoom in.
This was a good friend of mine, and we just back off from Operation Double Eagle. That's Bill Freshman. That was a fellow from Texas.
Okay.
We were cleaning weapons one day, and he says, "You got any awl?" And I says, "What?" He says, "You got any awl?" I says, "What the hell is awl?" He says, "Awl, put on your weapon." I said, "Oil." I says, "No wonder you guys from Texas don't know." He used to have a lot of fun with Bill. This was one of me on ship.
Okay.
This was another friend, Private Swing. These were guys with when I was first over there.
Okay.
This is the machine gunner I was telling you about, J.D. Hill. He was the one that was in the Army and then joined the Marine
Okay.
Corps. He was from Ohio. He could chew tobacco on one side of his mouth, have a cigarette hanging out the other side of his mouth, and drink a beer at the same time. He scrounged up a guitar from somewhere, and he was he strummed a guitar pretty good. This is me with a 45,
Okay.
and there I am with the M60.
All right.
I put that on for show with the belt. We didn't carry belts of ammunition over us. That just notified them. There's one of me in the tent. After we got the wooden ones up, they decided they weren't going to move them anymore.
Okay.
There's a couple other guys I was with. Ron Griffith was from Arizona.
Okay.
And then was Jim Emmenhauser. I don't know exactly where he was from. He was a Lance Corporal. And a couple more pictures. There's a couple of guys, Dodson and Garrison from, this is one of our camps we were in.
Okay.
This is J.D. Hill holding an AK-47 after Operation Utah.
All right.
That's pretty fuzzy. This was a E-Club that they built over there. They had
Yeah,
this-
I can't quite get it.
Can't get it. Those were the flags we had on base. I
Okay.
don't know if you can get that or not.
Yep.
These two you won't be able to get, they're too fuzzy. That one's, this one is on the sands of Chulai Beach.
Okay.
And that's the pictures, one of the pictures I had done in Saigon.
Okay. You were able to keep your hair that long in the Marines?
This was, it was actually when I was coming, well, you could
Okay.
at that point, because a lot of times we couldn't get our hair cut. We had a guy that did shaves on us, but
Okay. Is that a flag or something you have there?
this was from one of the operations. I think it was Utah also, and they said it was. I picked it up off the ground. I asked them what it was, and they said it was a Chinese battle banner.
Huh.
It had bamboo through it, and it was through the holes here,
Okay.
and it was like maybe to show them where a division was or something. I don't know, but that's what they
Okay.
told me it was. That intelligence. So, you know,
Okay.
we weren't able to keep weapons and things like that. any of that paraphernalia, but anything like that if we picked up, you could.
All right. Do you want to hold up your dress uniform? Now, what is that top ribbon? Is that the Marine Combat?
I wrote them down. I think I. The top ribbon is the good conduct ribbon.
Okay.
The yellow one with the gold around it is a presidential unit citation.
Mm-hmm.
We were awarded that 3 times. The next one is the combat ribbon. The next one is the Navy unit commendation, which was awarded 3 times.
Okay.
The next one is Navy campaign ribbon with 60 on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the little scroll. The next one is the Vietnam service ribbon, which was awarded 3 times. And the last one is the National Defense ribbon.
Okay, and then your marksmanship medals?
Yeah, marksman rifle and 45.
Okay. And let me ask you, how do you think your time in the service changed or affected your life?
It made me a better person, for sure. Not that my parents didn't. They were strict. My
Mhm.
upbringing was strict, but it made me focus more on doing things more correctly, I believe. Focus on where I should be and what I should be doing and how I should do it. Discipline. It was a big discipline thing, really.
Okay. Got about 5 minutes. Did you have some questions?
Yeah. Just very few quick questions. Did you ever encounter any of the tunnels that they built?
Yes. I wasn't down in them, but we did encounter some of the tunnels, yes.
Did you send people down in, or did you just try and blow
They
up
did.
the entrance?
They did send somebody down in, and it was basically it was a hospital underground,
Anybody in it?
and they pulled out. I think it was morphine or heroin. They pulled out. Tremendous amount of it was down in there.
Did you ever get any interaction with the South Vietnamese forces?
We had very little. Our unit, we didn't want a lot with us, but we had interpreters. That, and once in a while, you'd get a group together. Yeah,
Yeah. What was your assessment of their fighting abilities?
not very good. They a lot of times they didn't fight with us. Like I said, we only had interpreters with us. But the ones that we heard about over there, a lot of it was the minute the firing started, they threw their weapons on the ground and ran. So, so we felt sorry for a lot of the special forces that, like the Green Beret and stuff like that. They'd be like 20 Green Beret and 200 Arvin, and we're supposed to be taking a position or holding a position, and they'd end up with 20 Green Beret doing the fighting, and the rest of them were gone. And we get called out on operations like that, to pull them out of there.
My last question. I've read accounts that people said when they go on a night patrol or night ambush, they said when you get into that canopy, they said it's the scariest they've ever been. It is so dark. Everything is magnified. Did you ever have any experiences out at night?
Oh yeah,
night patrol?
yeah. It is. It's really different. When we go out through, you had to. They give us a certain position to go out, and out through the concertina wire, and you had to come back to that position. If you came back anywhere but that position, you were probably going to get shot. And it was so dark out there that it was more hairy coming back than it was being out there. To us, it seemed like it, because you had to hit the right spot, or you were gonna be in trouble. But a lot of times we go out. Basically, we go out and set up ambushes for the night, just areas that we thought were gonna be real well traveled, or what we got from intelligence, they said, hey, you better be covering this area and stuff like that. Once in a while, we'd run into some stuff, but most of the time it was, the worst thing was you staying awake and people snoring, you know, and, you know, you just, it was real hairy, it really was.
I'll tell you one more. Did you ever observe any napalm attacks?
No. They were, a lot of that was north of where we were. You mean where I was close by, or?
Well, I mean, close enough to actually see it.
Oh, yes, yeah, I see them, yes. As far as being, you know, 20 feet away from me, I didn't get in any of that, no. Like I say, I was with bigger units, so that the ones that were, where they were doing a lot of napalm was when they were being surrounded or something, then they'd come in and, you know, like that. But yeah, there was areas where they just laid it out too, you know, and in the operations, they, you know, if they hit a big pocket there, but normally we were probably from here to Broadway or better away from it to feel the effect of anything like that, which was good because that stuff wasn't accurate.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. The 5 is Nam Dong, which is a 5 Dong, and the other is a Hai Mui Dong, which is 20.
Okay,
And they had the coins also. This is a 1964.
okay. Oh, we're out of film.